They did him dirty, Gramps proclaimed. He was a criminal. How do you expect to get done? Granny's gummy voice rose up in tired opposition. Toussaint, the grandchild, had heard the story once for every Christmas in his life. How many times has she heard it? Hundreds, probably. They did him dirty just so he wasn't trying to fight in no world war. They made like he hated his government, chased him across the South to put him on the chain gang. It didn't have nothing to do with no government. It had to do with he wasn't trying to die in no Timbuktu. So one day he woke his woman up, said, "'Tain't happening. This is one man won't take it lying down. You keep still now, girl. Get your rest. Don't fret. I'm free and planning to stay that way." Then he left. He left his Louisiana home, which he couldn't keep no way. Then never looked back. If he had, all he'd have seen would have been them dogs and federal agents on his tail. He told me how he evaded them slave catchers, because that's what they called them, slave catchers, by hooking on with travel crews, then have himself the time of his fugitive life. Ain't matter, white, black, or green, them crews courted his services, because too many of their boys was gone overseas and not enough was coming back. So he'd get a train ticket for work in the next county, freight over there with whatever work crew, then sell the ticket for something and get a new one so as to keep hustling. Always snuck away first chance he got, them chasers on his tail. Seen the whole entire South that way. Women's everywhere, he told me. So many husbands, boyfriends, lovers gone, they women's was lonely on to restlessness. So one night he was stopped in Jackson and got down to business with this beautiful Coke bottle bird girl, and right while he's obliging her, his ears commences to hearing this rustle noise outside the house. Gets to thinking it's some dogs and federal agents. He untangles from her, jumps out the bed, jumps out the window 2-3 stories down. What do you know, on the backside of that broad's house, she been tending her a graveyard. Her old man must have been a coffin maker, because there's all these empty coffins just sitting out brand new and all and whatnot. So he's scared as hell, you gotta understand. He jumps himself down in one of their coffins, closes the lid. So what do you always tell me? Ain't no Freeman dying in no Siberia, or wherever it was they fought that mother. So he waits out the night, falls asleep in that coffin, and when he wakes up, all there is darkness. But he knowing it got to be light outside. Then he remembers the girl. He wonders what it is she'd do with the coffins. He tried to open the thing, but he can't. It won't open near as easy as it closed, so he starts with frustration. It's bad times now. He feels himself getting borne up, and there's voices, old, tired, patty rolled voices talking, hollering, and after a while they commences to singing them old field songs. And he thinks, they done took me back to slave times, oh death. But then he gets a hold of his composure, realizes that he's being borne along by the chain gang. He can hear their chains are rattling, he can hear their voices singing, and he can feel where it is he headed. So he mustered all his strength, and he wasn't no small man now, and straight pushes that coffin top clean off, breaks it off like it were a feather or something, and now he's in the open air, and men's just looking at him like he Christ's returned. Don't nobody touch him, not even the authorities. He just walk off nice as you please. He come back the next day, finds the girl whose daddy had him such a lucrative business, and he tells her how he done lived through death. She laughs at his story, tells him the real news. Anybody who had managed not to die had lived through the end time. The Great War was over. It was safe to come out into the light again. Then he proposed to her, fell to his knees. And then he divorced her, moved on some more to Alabama, where he finally married your great-granny, settled himself down. Your Gramps a natural storyteller, Granny said. You know what to put in, what to leave out. But me, I done forgot my manners. How did you forget your manners, Granny? Kia asked. Got old, got smart, Granny said. Isn't Gramps older than you? Dia wondered, in her delicate voice. Yes and no, Granny said. Yes and no. Why, yes, Kia asked. She twisted her beatific face into an expression of sheer beatific puzzlement. Because he was born in 27, whereas I was born in 32, Granny answered with thinning patience. Why no, the twins asked in one voice. Because he ain't made use of the head start God given him. She closed her eyes halfway and leaned back in her chair. Don't try to reason it out. Her half-closed eyes were big and warm and sad and golden brown in the kitchen half-light. The skin around those eyes was wrinkled, worn slack, like God had patched her face with crumbled brown paper bags. The twins counted the decades and the years on their hands, and both came to the silent conclusion that the granny shouldn't look so old at 57. Toussaint, had already sneaked out of the living room. He was such a quiet to himself child that he could come and go, and people would rarely notice his presence or absence. They only became aware when they wanted him for something. Since he was 6 years old, people could only give. Since he was 6 years old, they only wanted him around to give him gifts, and since poor people could only give each other so many gifts, their awareness of him fluctuated with their income. He drifted in and out of the lives of his grandparents and aunts and uncles and even his sisters without much notice. They hardly knew him. Not that there was much to know just yet, and he hardly knew them. He thought of these people like fogged and sporadically illumined ghosts of an intense, dazzling dream. They spoke fast and elaborate, retelling tales too old for him to comprehend. They sang and danced and showed out, and they gave him what they had, their money, their food, their love. He loved them back in that uncritical way that people love when they are young and the world is given to them before they grow up, and look backward and measure their memories against their scars.
Oh, well done.